Every time I make this dish, I think about my mom. It was the first dish she taught me how to make, and it's really funny because it has nothing to do with our culture. You would think that as a Lebanese mom, she would teach me a dish from Lebanon as my first one. But instead, I was taught this amazing Italian dish. She couldn't have taught me a better recipe. You need patience and skill to make this because this takes up a big chunk of your day. Because of this recipe, I learned how to chop and dice onions. I learned how delicate extra virgin olive oil is, and adding butter enhances the flavor of the whole dish. Even adding spices to your onions as they're being sauteed is a very important step. It elevates the flavors of the spices. They become so immersed with the onions and the oil and the butter. Sauteing the meat without adding the spices first is simply not the same. Even this part of allowing the meat mixture and the marinara sauce to fuse together and combine. Giving it that time, allowing it to thicken is so important. Rushing that step won't give you the same overall effect at the end of the dish. Also, fresh mushrooms and canned mushrooms are totally different. As a matter of fact, this is probably the first dish that taught me about herbs. I thought that adding dried basil should be enough, but I quickly learned that fresh basil is so potent that leaving it out will not give you the same result. I made this dish over and over every time thinking, oh yeah, now I perfected it. But every time I made it, I learned something new. I learned about new spices, a new technique. Even creating the layers was a skill. If I rushed through this part, then the final result felt like it had an element missing. Patience was an all-around skill that I needed to learn. Patience with myself because I gave myself such a hard time if a dish didn't come out the way I wanted it to. And patience with the dish, giving it enough time to do what it needs to do to combine the flavors. Adding cheese, what kind of cheese and how much cheese to put is a whole other thing that I had to learn. It was kind of like being in culinary school, but without the professionals there to teach you. There were plenty of times where I couldn't rely on my mom to tell me what to do. I had to figure things out on my own. I mean, there are plenty of cookbooks out there with amazing recipes, but we all know that reading about something and actually doing it are two completely different things. It's the doing part that hones in on our skills. So for me, making this one Italian dish actually taught me how to make so many others from different cultures, even from my own. Every recipe I make has a direct correlation to this first one that my mom taught me, and I will forever be grateful for that. Now let me feed you.
Let's cook the perfect steak.
It was a teenage wedding, and the old folks wished it well. You could see that Pierre did truly love the mademoiselle. And now the young monsieur and madame have run the chapel there. They arranged to the old folks, goes to show you never can tell. They furnished off an apartment with a 2-room robot stage. The pool rate of
a Master Perfect steak.
Ladies, do you want to be a wife? If you answered yes, this is how you do it. This is my Cajun pasta recipe, and I guarantee you it will get a ring on your finger. Start off by boiling your pasta, and then you're going to dice up half an onion, mince up 3 cloves of garlic, set them aside, and then we're going to chop up our sausage. Now here I'm using smoked sausage, but you can feel free to use andouille sausage if you would like. Cut them up into bite-sized chunks and then set them off to the side. Now this is totally optional, but I'm gonna go ahead and prep and season some shrimp. You can totally substitute it for some other protein like chicken, but I like seafood, so I'm gonna go with shrimp. You're gonna season your protein with some garlic salt, some Tony's, garlic powder, chili powder, and paprika. Splash a little bit of olive oil, and then you're going to mix it all together, making sure that every piece of protein is coated. In a pot, you're going to place a half a stick of butter and 1 tablespoon of olive oil, and you're going to cook down your protein, starting with your sausage. You're going to brown the outside. Once it's browned, you're going to take it out and put it in a separate bowl, and then you're going to throw in your shrimp or your other protein, whatever it may be. Cook it down, take it out, and put it in another bowl as well. After you've cooked down your protein, you're going to saute your onions and garlic. Saute them down until they're soft and aromatic, and then you're going to go ahead and throw in some sun-dried tomatoes and some roasted peppers. This is definitely optional, but I'm telling you, it tastes way better. A tablespoon of flour for thickening. You're going to cook it down with the onions, and then you're going to throw in 2 cups of heavy cream. Give it a good mix in the pot. Then you're going to add 3 cups of Parmesan cheese. Now this part is very important in getting the correct consistency of the sauce, but you're going to stir and stir and stir, and you're going to keep stirring, and you're not going to want to stop stirring, because if you stop, the heavy cream and the Parmesan cheese will start to separate. Now you're going to want to season your sauce, and whatever you season it is completely up to you, but I'm going to go ahead and use the Green Latifah and the Creole Daddy from my seasoning line to season my sauce. Go ahead and drain your pasta, and now we're going to mix everything all together. So here I'm layering my pasta, then my proteins, and now we're going to just pour the sauce all over it and give it a good mix, making sure that every little bit of the noodles and the protein are covered in the sauce. Once everything's mixed together, you are done. And I promise you, if this does not get a ring on your finger, it'll at least make him want to be around you more, because you know what they say, the way to a man's heart is through his stomach.
I wanted to make pizza for dinner, but my wife, she wanted salmon bites. So naturally we compromised and I made salmon bites. So here's the recipe I created for her. Take your salmon and cut into small bite-sized squares. Transfer your salmon into a bowl, then cover in some oil and add 2 teaspoons of 5-spice. Get down and dirty and mix that 5-spice thoroughly into your salmon. For the sauce, I added oyster sauce, soy sauce, white rice vinegar, some sriracha, sesame oil, sweet chili, honey, and some minced chili for that little bit of heat. Throw your salmon into the air fryer for around 8 minutes on 160 until they're almost cooked through. To a hot frying pan, we're going to add our sauce and let that reduce down, then throw in our salmon and finish cooking it in this delicious sauce. Finish the salmon with some sesame seeds, and then you can throw this on top of some rice, noodles, whatever your heart desires. I tossed a bit of pak choy in the pan with the sauce as well, creating the most amazing salmon dish. My wife loved it and hasn't stopped asking me to make it since. So why not give it a go and see for yourself.